Welcome back to First Move. As you've been hearing, Africa's largest nation has declared a new leader after a highly disputed presidential election. Officials say Bola Ahmed Tinubu won the contest despite a growing outcry from opposition parties. Tinubu appealed for unity in his acceptance speech. A top priority will be tackling things like economic issues, inflation, unemployment, and the recent banknote shortage in an economy where 90% of transactions are made in cash. That's something our next guest understands well and has been working to improve and digitise now for a number of years. Paga, a mobile money firm with 21 million unique users, processes over $800 million worth of transactions each month. It allows people to digitally send and receive money and access financial services via their app, all through one of their many retail agents. The founder and group CEO of Paga, Tayo Oviosu, joins us now from Lagos. Tayo, great to have you on the show. It's been too long, actually, and that's entirely my fault, and you'll be back sooner, I promise. Let's start.
No, great to be here, Julia. Thank you.
Good. Great to have you. Let's start with the election. You obviously experienced the new digital form of voting. You've experienced some of the concerns, the delays. What do you make of it all? And do you think the people will trust the result? Will you?
Yeah, I definitely trust the result. I think, and I hope most people do. I think there were definitely some issues, no doubt, but I don't think it's to the scale of not trusting the results. I think that the elections are now over. I used this equipment and it worked fine. That said, my hope is that we have a peaceful post-election, and something amazing has happened in Nigeria, and we all have to admit it. This is the first time a third party gave the two main parties a real serious run for the presidency, and I think that has inspired hope for all Nigerians that their vote does matter. And I think that would bode well in the future for more people coming out to vote. And I think, though, that now is the time to return our attention to the urgent issues that this next government has to address and to get Nigeria working for Nigerians again.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously have to talk about that, and we will, but what you said and you make a really great point. Do you think when we come round, and obviously there's a while now and a lot of work to be done in the short term, the next presidential election, actually, you think lessons will be learned, that people will vote more, and actually we could see an even bigger shift in terms of more than just two parties, incumbent and opposition, fighting this out?
Absolutely. I think people, I mean, the fact that the president-elect, who was former governor of Lagos State, did not win the plurality, of votes in Lagos State is a big point. And I think he recognized it in his acceptance speech, and recognized the sentiment from the people of Lagos State as well. And this is a state that his party has dominated. So I think people will look at this and say, it may not be now, but our vote counts and we should all come out and vote. And I certainly hope that the Electoral Commission over this next period will improve, and solve the issues that did come up during the cycle.
I mean, we can talk about some of those, but the one that I think plays most into what you do and what you've been working on now for a number of years is the sort of de facto banknote crunch that took place in the run-up with the government trying to swap banknotes and doing it over such a short period that I think inevitably there were going to be challenges. Talk to me about what you saw as a result for your business. And we had a lady on the show earlier just saying even trying to do sort of digital transfers actually was hampered over the past few weeks too. Tell us what's been going on.
Yeah, I think the direction of the central bank to move Nigeria to more cashless society is something I'm wholeheartedly behind. I think it's the right policy direction. And I do think and hope that the next government continues and actually strengthens this policy direction. Have they been some things that could have been done differently? Absolutely. What we have experienced on our platform is over 3x growth year over year on transactions digitally. And I think the banks have seen that they also need to improve their platforms and their technology and infrastructure. On our side, we have had really high uptime, and we've been able to and see people coming in to look for using our platform, whether it's at our retail agents or directly on their mobile phone. So for us, it's been really about driving the move to digital. When we spoke last, I think we spoke last Q2 of 2020, where we started seeing that move with people signing up. And today, and then when we spoke, we were processing, I think we were processing just about 30 million transactions in the year or something like that. Now last year we did 65 million transactions worth over 3.2 trillion naira. That's about 10% of the total estimated consumer spend in Nigeria, which is 40 trillion. So that growth is continuing into this year. And I think this move to digital from the central bank is only going to further spur it. And I expect that we'll continue to drive additional growth, whether it's from individuals trying to figure out ways to transact digitally and make everyday payments, or businesses who want to collect payments as well. And a recent partnership that we have with one of the big banks here, the United Bank for Africa, is going to further help this, because we've partnered together working for them to issue Visa cards to our customers. So UBA issues a Visa card to our customers, both a physical card. So now wherever Visa is accepted, you can use it, whether that merchant accepts Paga or not. Also online, you can now use the Visa card to shop online and to receive remittances into Nigeria, which is a big deal for Nigerians. As you know, over the last 3 years, a lot of people have also left the country. So this is a big opportunity. So we're really excited about the push to digital. I think it's going to stay.
There's so much I could talk to you about. You're going to have to come back and talk more in depth about the business, but you just said something there that I have to ask you about, and that is what we talk about as the brain drain of people just going elsewhere, looking for opportunity. I mean, you're sort of the other way, because you were born in the United States and you chose, to move to Nigeria because you saw the opportunity, and obviously you're talking about that now and you have seen growth. But are you finding the people that you need in order to be able to grow? And what does this government now have to do, at least in the short term, to tackle some of these issues, but also stop people leaving and encouraging brilliant people, innovators, to come back?
Well, Julia, first of all, to correct you, I was born and raised here in Nigeria. I left when I was
16, sorry, yes, and then went to the US.
No, not at all. But it was my formative years. And then I came back. When I'm talking to my team and young folks today, I don't blame them for wanting to leave, right? I do think that this new government now has the opportunity to set in stone some key things that would drive investments and would drive growth in the economy, and would make it a harder choice for people to leave, because it's not easy going to Canada not knowing anyone and trying to find a job, or going to the UK and not knowing anyone. So I think there are 5 key things that this government really has to tackle. One is to solve the electricity problem. One is to tackle the rising subsidy. Second, rising subsidy on petrol, which is having a real impact on our dollar reserves. And then to more freely trade the naira, right? If the more freely trade the naira, more market driven, it's going to drive investments, and it's going to then create jobs, right? And then finally, enact a social net for Nigerians. We don't have a social net. There's no social security program. There's no Medicare program. I think if you do these things and you unleash innovation across the country, people will not look to leave, right? People like me came back because Nigeria can be the giant of Africa. This country is going to be the second largest country in the world within the century. And it's on track to be larger than the United States very shortly. So I think we have a lot of potential, and it's now time for the government to really get working for Nigerians, right? And to open up investments, to allow people to come and invest in Nigeria more smoothly, and to create jobs locally so people don't leave.
Yeah, third largest economy, I believe, by 2050 in the world. So essential for Nigeria to get it sorted, but also essential for the region and the world. Very quickly, because I'm now out of time, but I couldn't agree more with you on what needs fixing. Any desire to be part of the leadership of the country one day and promote fixing in a different way?
Maybe one day. You never say no if your country calls you to serve. But I'm very available I've been to various governments and would be again in lending my voice and in sharing a perspective on what I think can be done. I am hopeful that this new government will get it right. And I think, and I'm hopeful that we have a peaceful transition, and that we all focus towards making Nigeria the giant of Africa again.
Okay, this conversation is to be continued on numerous fronts, and
Love to.
apologies once again for getting jumbled up on the journey back and forth. We'll reconvene, my friend. Thank you so much. Great
Thank
to
you
get
so
your
much,
insights.
Leah. Take care.
Yeah,
Nice
thank
meeting you.
you.